The Joker is doing it again. He's shattering every threshold imaginable for a big man. 30 points, 13 rebounds, 10.5 assists, 1.5 steals. No wonder he's currently the favorite to win his 4th MVP award. These numbers are already mind-boggling to look at, but they become downright jaw-dropping when you dive into the advanced metrics. So far this season, Nikola Jokic is first in player efficiency rating, second in win shares, first in value over replacement player, first in box plus minus by a chasm-sized gap I might add, and he's second in LeBron, not the player, but the stat. In case you're unfamiliar with these terms, and this just sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo, here's how Jason Tatum and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the other 2 MVP candidates, rank in the aforementioned categories. And interestingly, these stats shine a whole new light on the MVP race and showcases why Jokic's top spot is so contended despite his dominance on paper. You'll see why. Boston Celtics forward Jason Tatum is hot on Jokic's trail on the ladder, hoping to claim the coveted MVP trophy that's escaped the defending champion. He's 7th in PER, 4th in win shares, 8th in box plus minus, 4th in VORP, and 1st in LeBron. Now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is OKC's two-way superstar, whose team appears to be the best in the bloody West. SGA is 4th in PER, 1st in win shares, 2nd in BPM, 2nd in VORP, and 3rd in LeBron. Here's why these numbers are fascinating. Upon dissection, they provide evidence for why all 3 men are currently deserving of the MVP award. Jokic is clearly the favorite on paper, and rightfully so. He's been flat out dominant this season. But we must take into account that advanced metrics are very tricky, to put it plainly. Firstly, PER and BPM heavily favor all-around stats and efficiency, so big men who can rebound and fill out the stat sheet get an edge on the rankings. I mean, Daniel Gafford is above Stephen Curry and Jalen Brunson on the PER leaderboard. BPM is much of the same, and both stats undermine the value of three-point shooting or offense that is generated outside of the box score. And that's what win shares, VORP, and LeBron attempt to account for. Well, in that case, Jokic is still the clear frontrunner. So what exactly are the arguments to be made in favor of the other 2 MVP candidates? Let's start with Tatum, because despite being second on the MVP ladder, in truth, he's the definite 3rd compared to the other 2. What gives Tatum the nod is 2 things: winning and more winning. He's the best player on the best team. He's probably going to win his 2nd consecutive NBA championship. What could be more valuable than that? And I mean, that school of thought isn't necessarily incorrect. It just comes down to what you'd consider the definition of the most valuable player. Because if I'm averaging 29, 8.5, 6 assists, and 1.5 steals on the best team in the world, then there's no way you're telling me another player is more valuable. How can they be? The most important value is winning, and my team wins the most, and my contribution is paramount in that effort. Tatum has a valid claim, and it's primarily based on traditional values. If Jokic's claim is based entirely upon his individual dominance, then Tatum's is based on the complete opposite, team dominance. As for Gilgeous-Alexander, his argument lies in the middle. In regards to the analytics, he's second or surpassing Jokic, and he's the best player on the best team in a tougher conference than Tatum. He's also the best defender amongst the 3. He's averaging 2 steals a game, and he's the best shot blocker amongst the 3. No, I'm not making that up. He has more blocks than a 6'10" lengthy forward and a damn center this season. The guy is also averaging 36.5, 5 rebounds at 6'6". So he's a monster in traditional stats. He's right behind Jokic in advanced metrics, and his team is right behind Tatum's as championship favorites. He's also the best defender amongst the 3. So is the most valuable player the one who's touching all the bases? There's certainly no weaknesses in Gilgeous-Alexander's argument. Truthfully, there hasn't been such a competitive MVP race like this in ages. I mean, Giannis Antetokounmpo is having himself a season for the ages and is only omitted due to his team's poor start to the season, but how the Milwaukee Bucks have performed as of late, he could enter this conversation by next month. Now, with all that said, my pick for MVP right now is Nikola Jokic. I'm sorry if the thumbnail gave it away, and I'll detail exactly why. But regardless of who receives the award, all of this is great for the league. We want competition for the award because it adds value to the regular season. And when all is said and done, I think Joker is going to beat the competition and hoist his 4th MVP award with some added and unfortunately deserved criticism. In the 2022-23 season, Nikola Jokic embarked on an impressive tour of destruction, and for the majority of the year, it appeared as if a 3rd straight MVP was in order for the Serbian big, a feat that had not been accomplished since the great Larry Bird, one that escaped even Michael Jordan and LeBron James. However, as Jokic was concluding this monumental season, seemingly overnight, Joel Embiid became the favorite to win the award, and when the regular season concluded, the most valuable player was all but guaranteed to be the 76er superstar. The Joker was usurped of his crown a mere month before the end of his campaign, but that only marked the ending of his regular season, not his pursuit of everlasting glory. Jokic shifted his focus higher, the Finals MVP, given to the player who conquers the ultimate achievement of the sport. In falling short of 3 consecutive MVPs, a heavier crown was placed upon his head, one that shined ever more in gold. The Denver Nuggets winning the NBA championship with Jokic being crowned Finals MVP made Embiid's selection seem like a pity award, more of a here man damn kind of thing, which is unfortunate considering he had an all-time season. Since dominating in 2023, the Nuggets have failed to reclaim their footing at the top. This season, they're 6th in team points per game while being dead last in 3-point attempts. For reference, Boston is 3rd in team points per game while attempting a league-topping 50.5 3-pointers a night. The Nuggets are extremely proficient at attacking the rim. It's been their offensive philosophy throughout head coach Mike Malone's tenure. It makes sense that such a strategy would be successful considering their offensive hub is one of the best finishers in the league. But on nights when the team can't generate offense going downhill, they struggle to work their way back into games since the great equalizer, the 3-point shot, isn't readily available to them. Which is kind of funny considering 32 3-pointers a night would have led the league 8 years ago. But the NBA has evolved into a numbers game, and analytics now suggest that 3-pointers are tenfold more effective than 2s. Regardless, they're 6th in points per game and 7th in offensive rating, proving that the Mile High's offense isn't the main source of their woes. As long as Nikola Jokic is on the court, this team will continue to generate points. That's what makes the big fella so dominant. But as a unit, especially depth-wise, this is the shallowest we've seen Denver. Their best player off the bench is a 36-year-old Russell Westbrook who is currently shooting 30% from the field. Besides Westbrook, there's Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther, 2 homegrown pieces who've either failed to stand out or are too unpolished to leave an impression. This team is like boneless wings. Beyond the surface, there's nothing of substance remaining. And if the playoffs started today, the Nuggets are not a championship caliber team. And yes, I know Aaron Gordon hasn't played, but they were 4-3 with AG, and all those wins came from bottom-feeding teams. And that's because this team struggles playing against greater competition. They're 5-5 when facing teams with a 500 record. For reference, the Celtics, Thunder, Cavaliers, and even the Phoenix Suns are better against winning opponents. The Nuggets have a personnel problem. The roster they won out with has dissipated. In place of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jeff Green, and Bruce Brown's absence, they've slotted in players who cannot fill that void on either end of the floor. They've managed to keep their core intact, handing out lucrative contracts to Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, and usually that's the perfect move. If you win a championship, you keep that unit intact for as long as possible. But unfortunately for Denver, Murray has completely fallen off a cliff. For Jamal Murray, it's as if he'd given every ounce of power and talent he had to win in 2023. The man's been straight up mediocre and borderline trash since then. In last year's playoffs, it seemed as if he was only there to game the Lakers twice because he was completely unavailable in assisting Jokic as he carried that team to 7 versus Minnesota. And so far this season, that verdict appears to be a repeat. So until the others step up their production, the Nuggets are simply a good team. And that's due to Jokic's singular impact. He's so dominant that all he needs is a fraction of his abilities to be replicated by his teammates to turn a good team into an elite one. Maybe the return of Aaron Gordon will provide just that for the Nuggets. Regardless, they'll always be an arm's length of greatness as long as number 15 suits up, since he is the best basketball player on the planet. Thanks for watching.